Warm-up and strength exercises for ballet.
Hi, I'm here to show you some exercises that you can use for warm-up or for strengthening. If you're going to use them for warm-up, you can do these faster with less repetitions. So for strengthening, I suggest you do these slower with more repetitions in order to build the muscle. If you're going to do this for strengthening, I suggest doing it every other day or about 3 times a week.
Please begin by doing some sort of rapid movement. Here are a few fun ones I like. It is unwise to work cold muscles. Doing movements that exhilarate the heart will make your muscles warmer. I suggest about 3 to 5 minutes of movement. Let's begin. We'll start with laterals. You reach your arms up in the air and then bend your torso side to side. You want to contract one side of your obliques and then lengthen the other side. And the trick is not to move your hips. Then you take a lateral into a flat back and then twist up. When you do this, you want to pressing your hips back away from your arms. So your arms are lengthening out and your hips are reaching the opposite direction so that you get a nice pull and that the obliques are facilitating the twist. From the flat back, you'll swing and catch, swing and catch. When doing this, you want to make sure your hips don't swing. You drop your body weight completely down, but your hips don't move. It is just in your torso. You also want to make sure that you're still lengthening out. So you lengthen and then reach and then coming up. Now stretch it out. You want to really stretch after you do any sort of muscle building exercise so that your muscles don't knot up or tighten, but they can continue to be lengthened, which is what we need in ballet. Next is the turned out squat, or just a basic second position grand plie. You will hold this for about 30 seconds. You want to make sure that your knees aren't inverting in or over or forward. And you want to make sure your ankles aren't doing the same, so nothing's rolling in. You're maintaining that turnout, and your arms are nice and strong as well. As you go into the second one, you may start to feel a little shaky. Try to avoid bouncing up and down in the position. You really want to hold the position for the maximum muscle use. And if you need to come up a little bit, you can do that. But yeah, try not to bounce between up and down. As you go into the heel lifts, your leg will probably shake coming down. That's okay, just try to control it coming down instead of slamming the heel down. Make sure you breathe as you come down and continue breathing as you're holding. Now stretch it out. You may want to also do some supplemental hip, quad, and thigh stretches. Some of these stretches can be found in the basic ballet stretches video. Next, you'll go into the triangle stretch. Here is a side look of it. You want to make sure your hips are going up to the ceiling and your belly button is pressing down into the floor to create a nice flat line. You don't want to curve your back. And then walk on out into the plank. You want to make sure that your shoulders and hips are in line with each other. You don't want any curve of the back, either direction, whether it's arching up or arching down. This causes a lot of strain on the back, so you want to be able to hold your abs together in order to create that flat line. And you'll hold that for about 15 seconds and then come back up. And then you'll walk on back out and hold for another 15 seconds. Make sure you are breathing deeply as you hold this. And then you'll walk your feet to your hands and then walk your feet back out. And this movement just creates a release and then uses the muscles a little bit more as if you are moving through the movement rather than just holding it stagnant. This plank you will hold for 30 seconds. Remember to breathe deeply. Don't arch your back in either direction. And try to keep your neck in line with your back as well. Now you'll pivot your body so the only thing supporting you is your hand and lower leg. And this is the side plank, which you'll also hold for 30 seconds. And what you want to try to make sure is that your hip is not sinking down. You want a straight line again from your shoulder to your hip to your foot. You'll also hold this for 30 seconds. And then you'll switch, going through the plank position to the other side plank. You can lift your arm for a deeper challenge in balancing. You will hold this for another 30 seconds. If you feel you are unstable, you may put your upper arm down so your fingertips are bracing yourself. You do not want to fall from this position. Now you'll go back to the plank and then go down onto your elbows. Again, you do not want your hips to sink you lower and causing more strain on the back, and you don't want your hips to go up in the air, making more of a triangle. You want it to be nice and flat. Make sure you're relaxing your shoulders and breathing deeply. You'll pivot to the side on your elbow. This one's a lot harder to hold your hip up, but keep pressing it up so that it does not sink down. And you will hold this one for 30 seconds as well. Keep breathing deeply. And going through the middle plank, you'll pivot to the other side. Go through the middle plank and then lower yourself down. Stretch out your abs and back by pressing your hands into the floor and lifting your shoulders and head back. Make sure you're pressing your shoulders down so they're not lifting up into the ears. Now relax your back by pressing back into your heels. Next, we're getting ready for our push-ups. You can either do the half push-up, which is on your knees, or you can go into a full push-up position. Either one works. You want to make sure though that your arms are underneath your shoulders as close to them as possible, and that your hips are not going up in the air. You do not want to be right on top of your kneecap. You want to kind of be right above your knee so you're not putting that pressure on it. You also do not want to do what I'm doing here, which is pressing my nose and neck closer to the ground than what my body is doing. So you'll do 10 and then you'll relax and stretch it out. And remember to just keep going as far as you can down. You're using your own body weight to strengthen your muscles, so it's okay if even if it's just a little bend in the arms, you will progress over time. You want to also make sure you're breathing, and you want to keep pressing your belly button into the ground. You don't want it to pull up and have your hips create an angle. You want to try to keep everything flat from your shoulders to your hips to your knees. Next is the tricep dips. In this, you want to try to keep your hips up as much as you can. This is entirely your arms moving. You're bending your elbows, which is pulling your weight down, and then you're pressing back up. You're not letting your hips go up and down, even if that's what it looks like. Your hips are not moving your body, your arms are. You also want to be wary that if you have hyperextended arms like I do, that when you straighten, you don't lock back into your elbows. You want to go into a straight line, which will feel bent to you, but you do not want to lock, which is what I'm doing. But you can see the hyperextension there where it kind of bends inward at the elbow rather than creating a straight line. And now just stretch it out. For this stretch, you want to keep lifting your arms up as much as you can. They're not just stretching back behind you, but they're pressing up. And especially as you lean backwards, keep pressing it up. This is one of my favorite exercises because it activates the turnout muscles, which are so important in ballet. You want to make sure you're going slowly and squeezing the legs together and then pressing them apart so you're really utilizing all of the muscles. The next variation of this is you raise your leg up, the knee is still on the ground but the feet are in the air. One tricky part about this is your toes sometimes want to curl together, otherwise known as sickling. You don't want to sickle. Now extend the leg, and from this, your knee stays exactly where it's at, and you straighten the leg, holding the turnout. Your goal is to keep the knee going towards the ceiling as you straighten and then bend, and then squeeze it together. Now bring your leg up to passe, Now this position should be the same as if you were standing up. Your hips are pulled up and your stomach is held, not falling out, so that everything is in a straight line and you're holding the turned out passe position and then turning in and out. You should be feeling a burn right in the backside of your hip. Now you're going to do a développé and enveloppé to kind of relax those muscles, and you've just worked them really, really hard. So they're warmed up and ready to be stretched out, and this is a good way to just kind of create some movement in the hip. And take a nice stretch. And then bring the top leg across the body. And your ankles should be overlapping the leg. You want your toe pointing away from you so you're not sickling. Your knee that's closest to you pressing out, and the knee furthest from you pressing that leg towards you, and your hips pressing down into the floor. This will create a nice stretch in that hip area that was just burning. And you can take deep breaths, and with every exhale, you can bring it a little bit closer. So you're increasing the stretch. And then bring your top leg across your body. This sometimes takes a little bit to find the right spot. You may need to lift it up more or lower it, straighten it or bend it. You'll kind of find where it works best for you. In doing the other side, I've given you another angle of it so you can more clearly see my alignment. My stomach is held in. My knees are not in front of me, they're right in line with my hips. And my abs are not out, they are pulled up and between my ribs and my hips. And then lifting up, again my knees don't come in front, they stay out. And then you hold this. So you want to hold your abs nice and tight and remember to breathe. Now for your feet, you don't want to sickle, you want to keep them straight. And as you go into the extended clam, you don't want to go like a kick and a flick. You want it to be nice and slow and press and hitting each position. You turn out, you extend, bring it in and close. Nice and slow, pressing the legs together. You should start to really feel that burn in your outer hip. Now bringing your leg up to passe, you want to keep your abs nice and tight so you don't fall forward. You also don't want your hip to move forward. You want it to stay nice and controlled right underneath the ribs and shoulder, so it's just the isolation of the hip that you are working. This is also going to help you in your pirouette turns, so that you can hold that position. And just let it go, nice and loose. And stretch it out again. Bringing the top leg across. And pressing your closest knee away from you and your furthest knee closer to you, your hips pressing down into the ground. Now take your top leg and bring it across. Your shoulder should be pressing down into the floor. And your hip should also be pressing in the opposite direction as your leg twisting. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Happy dancing!